For the first time in I don't even know how many years, there is a new Toyota 4Runner, and this is the limited trim. Now I know there are some hardcore options that get a lot of attention, like the TRD Pro and the Trailhunter, but for people who just need to live with an SUV on a daily basis, the Limited has a good blend of practicality, capability, and of course, this legendary nameplate.
Hey Kyle, speaking of legendary nameplates...
Mike, what the heck is this?
Kyle, isn't it obvious? This is the Wrangler Willys 41 edition.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be practical.
This is practical. Look, it's a plug-in hybrid. I have a green plate. I have a hardtop, 4 doors, super practical.
All right, well, I think I'm going to have the more practical one out of these two.
But I got the cooler one, and when you're driving an off-roader, cool is better than practical.
I guess we should put that to the test and go find out.
If you're heading on an off-road journey, it's important to be prepared. No one wants to ruin a great expedition by getting stuck along the way. Keep the adventure rolling with a high-quality, proven Warn Xeon XD winch. Redesigned and retooled from the ground up for ultimate performance and durability, the Xeon XD is available in 10, 12, or 14,000 pound pulling capacity. It has a no-load line speed of up to 40 feet per minute, which is fastest in class and features waterproof construction, 3-stage planetary gearing, and 6-segment cone braking. No matter the conditions, the Warn Xeon XD is up to the task. To get yours, hit the link in the description below.
The Wrangler isn't new. I mean, it's barely changed its shape in over 80 years, but the latest one comes in many trims, and that includes the Willys, which isn't new either. But what is new is the Willys 41 package this year, and it's a tribute to the original 1941 Jeep used in World War II. The new trim comes painted in olive drab, which is like an army green paint that's a tribute to the original, and there's even period correct blue drab decals on the hood for the 4xe and for the word Wrangler, which is pretty cool. And speaking of decals and the hood, there's a big black one that has a 41 carved out of it, just in case people don't know what the special edition is. But I don't think they'll confuse it, because outside of the paint, which is pretty obvious, the wheels are amazing. They're alloy wheels and they're 17-inch, but they're designed to look exactly like the steel painted wheels that, again, the original Jeep came with back during the war. And they are some of my favorite wheels already. They just came out, but I love them. They just fit this Jeep so well, and you even get a 5th one for the spare tire. The Willys 41 also comes with 33-inch all-terrain tires, but I'll get to that in a little bit. The only real distinct option on the exterior of my tester is the 3-piece body colored roof, which again just suits the overall package really well, although a tan soft top is pretty cool too.
Okay, look, I can't really argue with Mike. The 1941 edition of the Wrangler is super cool, but I think this version of the 4Runner is also cool. It has its cool aspects anyway. Now, it's been a while since we've had a new one, but this one is a lot closer tied to the Tacoma than previous ones, and you can see that up front. But kind of like the Sequoia and Tundra, I'd argue this is the better looking of the pair. The SUV is just a little more complete and consistent in its styling. The Limited does have a rather unfortunate underbite with that serious plastic spoiler down on its chin. I understand that that's for fuel economy purposes. What I don't know is if it's as easy to remove as it is on the Tacoma. I hope so. Anyway, the cool parts. It has very powerful flared rear arches. It has that power lowering rear window that is such a emblematic part of the 4Runner experience. And for the first time in who knows how long, we have the wraparound rear windows that just go over into the roof, and it's a really nice touch. I also think the Limited does look pretty good for what it is. As being an road-biased SUV, I think it's good. I really like this pale blue color, heritage blue. It works well with the chrome wheels and especially with the brown leather interior, portobello. Fancy. Yeah, I think this is a little more refined than the Wrangler, but maybe not as outright cool.
Now this is the Wrangler 4xe Willys 41 if you want to be specific. So being the 4xe, I have the plug-in hybrid system. So that's a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine matched up to 2 electric motors. The 4-cylinder on its own makes 270 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty decent. But paired with a starter motor that's 44 horsepower and 39 pound-feet of torque, and of course that traction motor, which is 134 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque, and well, now you've got a serious drivetrain. Total power is pegged at 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque, which is a lot for the Jeep Wrangler. In fact, that's the second most after the crazy 392 with the Hemi V8. That said, with the Wrangler getting the hybrid system, it does gain a lot of weight. There's a 17.3 kilowatt hour battery, and overall, this specific model weighs about 5,000 pounds. Now that main traction electric motor is housed within the 8-speed automatic transmission, and it's the default power source as long as there's some battery charged. The issue is, really no matter what the battery charge is at, and there's no way I can keep the engine running or force it to go into full hybrid from a dead stop, even if I push the hybrid button or the e-save button, which should be saving electric motor and allowing me to use the gas engine to charge it back up. It's a bit annoying because although there's plenty of power and torque from the electric motor, it uses up the battery more than I want at times, and if you're doing some more moderate acceleration or you're getting up to a higher speed, the gas engine's gonna have to kick in anyways, so why not just let me have it from the start? And the reason I'm making such a big deal about this is one of the worst hybrid systems in terms of the transition from all electric power to hybrid. When the gas engine kicks in, it kicks in like the mid RPM range, revving up, and although there's no abrupt lurch of power into the vehicle, you can feel that transition mixed with the extra noise, and it's just less than refined. And despite those crazy power figures, you don't really get it when it first kicks in until everything's settled down after a couple seconds. Then you have plenty of power. But if I want to just step into it, sometimes I gotta wait for the engine to kick in, the system to be ready, and then for it to send me off. Once cruising, power delivery is smooth and there's no issues at all. It's just that transition getting up to speed that needs to be ironed out a bit.
In terms of powertrain, these are pretty different. Now, I could get a hybrid power plant in the 4Runner, but A, it is a regular hybrid instead of a plug-in like the Wranglers, and B, it would still be down on power. Now, this is the regular base engine in the 4Runner, and when you compare it to the similar one in the Wrangler, it does come off looking better. I have more displacement, so with 2.4 liters, I'm looking at 278 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque. Roughly similar horsepower, but a useful chunk more torque, and this is probably also lighter than a Wrangler, especially that Wrangler. Hooked up to this 4-cylinder is an 8-speed automatic, also just like the Wrangler, and it is a pretty good one. It is definitely a lot better than the old 5-speed in the previous 4Runner because that was a little asthmatic. This does exactly what I need. It kicks down when I ask more power. It shuffles through the ratios if I'm on the highway so that I'm staying at nice low RPMs, not a ton of noise. It is totally agreeable. Now this powertrain is pretty perky. If I need to speed up to get up to highway speed, it does it well. The 8-speed is such a huge improvement over the old 5-speed in the previous 4Runner because it is quicker, I have a wider spread of ratios, it's just always there for me. I have no issues with it except, well, this isn't really a transmission issue so much as it is just a throttle tuning one, but I do find that tip-in on the pedal is very sharp. So it took a few days to get used to just how eager the 4Runner is, starting from a stop. It's a minor thing. I'm sure if you have it for a while, you'll get used to it, but it is something worth pointing out. In terms of absolute power, I actually don't think this is much slower than the hybrid either. Sure, it's giving up almost 50 horsepower, but once on the move, this 4Runner is plenty powerful for day-to-day stuff. What it's lacking is maybe that instant access torque that you get with the hybrid.
Like most plug-in hybrids, the Wrangler 4xe can only charge at speeds of a level 2 charger and lower. It has a 7.2 kilowatt onboard charger, and from a completely depleted battery. Jeep estimates a stage 2 charger will get it up in just over 2 hours. When the battery is fully charged and driven with a light foot, Jeep expects about 21 miles of range on pure battery, and in my testing I'm getting around 18-19, so that's not far off. When the battery's fully depleted, expect about 20 miles per gallon combined, which isn't great for a plug-in hybrid. Even though this is the Wrangler, I still expect it a little better, but that is much better than a regular Wrangler, so I guess there's that.
Now, both of these big body-on-frame SUVs handle, well, a little more rugged than your traditional Highlander or Grand Cherokee. That's fine. Out of the two of them, though, this is the one that's friendlier day to day. And I mean, that's not that surprising. The Wrangler is known for its ruggedness, even when you're not driving a full-on Rubicon. Now, on the dirt, turning in, I actually can tell what the front end is doing within the same second of moving the steering wheel. And so that's a nice advantage for the 4Runner. It does have a smoother on-road ride too, even with its big wheels. It's just more comfortable. Now, that being said, it does get a little vibraty, porpoisey when you're dealing with a lot of consecutive bumps. It's just a little shaky, but nonetheless, it feels very stiff and consistent. I think that's the thing. There are more manners with this version of the 4Runner now, where I just trust it. I don't necessarily trust the Wrangler. The 4Runner is honestly pretty comfortable too. I don't have any issues with how it was both on the dirt or here on paved roads. However, while it is easier to take care of on the highway because I don't have to worry about keeping it in a straight line all the time, there is a lot of wind noise. Just a lot. And so that's going to be a thing in both of them. This is still the better, easier to live with one on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, even in limited trim, don't come into a 4Runner expecting the same sort of experience that you'd get in, well, even an off-road oriented version of a unibody SUV. Around town, when I'm driving through traffic in the morning, I think it's pretty easy to say that the 4Runner is the better choice out of these two. If you aren't dealing with uneven roads or big potholes or speed bumps, then it might even fool some people into thinking that it is a car-based platform instead of a truck one. It's reasonably well-mannered. I have an idea of where it's going to go. It actually does what it is told. There's not that second of delay between turn in and actual responses like you get in the Wrangler with those obviously more off-road oriented tires. Now, optioning four-wheel drive gives you full-time four-wheel drive, which is nice, and then I have a rotary dial down here to swap between the regular setup and 4-high locked or 4-low locked. I also have my drive modes selectable from the same rotary dial. I just spin it around. I can go through pretty standard stuff for most Toyotas, so normal, comfort, eco, sport, that sort of stuff. Sport Plus, which doesn't feel necessary. I mean, even Sport doesn't, for that matter, in the 4Runner, but hey. No.
From the outside, this may look like a Rubicon or a Rubicon Twin, but it really isn't. It has some bits of Rubicon, but it's not nearly as hardcore as the Rubicon. So besides that higher rear drive ratio, it shares the same ground clearance of 10.8 inches with the Rubicon and the same approach, departure, and breakover angles. But that's really where it stops. It doesn't have the same suspension as the Rubicon. It has the one shared with the Sport and Sahara and all the other 4xe models. And it also has the open front differential and only the e-lockable rear differential. All that said, this is still very capable. It is a Wrangler after all. It has a proper 2-speed transfer case in the 4-wheel drive system, solid axles front and rear, those meaty all-terrain tires. In general, this is going to go places a lot of SUVs aren't, especially that 4Runner Limited. And hey, Kyle's going on about these being practical vehicles. This can tow too. Okay, it's only 3,500 pounds, but still, it can tow, and this one has the tow package, so it's all ready to go. On the road, this drives like a Wrangler, and that means it's a bit of an adventure behind the wheel. I do have the 4-door, so I have the longer wheelbase, so it's a little better on highways than in high crosswinds like I'm driving in today. But this is the worst vehicle currently on sale today when it comes to staying in a straight line. Now, I know there's tons of Jeep owners who right now are fiercely getting ready to type a comment about how I'm wrong and it drives perfectly fine and it's no issue at all. And you know what? For them, it probably is because they're used to it. And it's not like it's unwieldy or unsafe. It's just I drive hundreds of cars a year, and this one by far likes to wander the most. But that's the nature of the four-wheel drive system. The steering has such a huge ratio to get those minute little corrections when you're off-roading that when it comes to highway speed, it gets a little wandery, let's say. And not helping matters are those big squishy tires. The vehicle that comes the closest to it in terms of liking to take the windy route on a straight road is probably the Ineos Grenadier. Ride comfort, perfectly fine on smooth roads or dirt trails. It's comfortable. I'd even go that far as to say the only time it gets a bit jittery is on really broken pavement or washboard roads, but that's just sort of the byproduct of the solid axles and heavy duty suspension. Handling, well, I'm not really going to get into that. This is a Wrangler. It takes corners at pretty much any speed as long as you're just using common sense, and I'll just leave it at that.
Now, as I sit here in late afternoon traffic, I have to say I'm again happy I'm in the 4Runner because I have way more toys. Actually, toys is not the right word. How about useful everyday features? Because, well, for starters, I have heated and ventilated seats. They're also leather and power adjustable. Pretty good. If I am sharing my vehicle with my partner, significant other, friend, whatever, I have memory seats. I also just have a better heated steering wheel. Now, in the middle of summer, that doesn't really matter, but here it does. Both of these vehicles do have a nice number of physical controls, so that is more or less a wash. Good on both Jeep and Toyota for doing that. But I have, well, just more space as well. I have more storage. I have a nice wireless charger down here that works really well. I have USB ports, 2 of them down right by the wireless charger, and then one on the side of the screen for reasons. Actually, you know, on that note, I will say that while this is the bigger screen, it's not necessarily better than the one in the Wrangler. Stellantis has done really good infotainment for a while now, and Toyota's is almost too minimalistic. Now, look, if you're only really using a screen for navigation or music, or let's say you're hooking up your phone anyway, then yeah, they're pretty much the same. But the Jeep does have a lot more features. You also get a dedicated screen for its hybrid system and everything, and yeah, that's great. Also, just a tiny rant here. Toyota, why have you decoupled trips from fuel economy? Why do I have to reset those or change those or whatever separately? It's kind of nuts. I also have a 360-degree camera, which is a huge advantage when you are trying to maneuver in a tight parking spot at a campsite. Food for thought. I find the 4Runner pretty darn comfortable too. It's just easier to see out of. The problem with having such an upright windshield in the Wrangler is it just ends up feeling a little claustrophobic. Here I have a lot more natural light, and that's without even counting this. I also can seat 7 people. I mean, there's an asterisk there. You can fit 7 people here. It's just the last 2 people who have to go in that tiny third row are going to hate you. It's probably the worst third row on the market. Neither of these second rows is great, I'll be honest with you, but at least this one has doors that are regularly sized, so it's easy for adults to get in back there. So the 4Runner comes with a variety of driver assists, a whole lot of them, honestly, and way more as standard than the Wrangler. I'm not paying for an extra safety package here. However, that doesn't mean they're all good. One funny acronym that Toyota introduced in its safety suite a few years back is PDA, or Proactive Drive Assist. Now, the oversimplified way to describe this is it's basically adaptive cruise control at all times. That sounds good. It sounds proactive. Except in reality, what it does is, well, what it's doing right now. It will brake ahead of time for you. It will slow the car down if it thinks you're going to start getting too close to the car in front. The issue that I have with this is that it is regularly applying the brakes, and you do see the indicator lower down in the digital instrument cluster that the brakes are lit up, but it just makes it seem like you don't know what you're doing, because as long as you're trying to cruise or coast, the vehicle will pretty regularly brake for turns in the road or slower cars ahead, and it seems a little eager to do that. I just don't like it. Unfortunately, too, you can turn it off in the settings, in the instrument cluster, except every time you turn the car back on, PDA is active. Doesn't Toyota know that people don't like PDA?
Inside, it has the usual Wrangler quirks still, like the power windows down here low on the dash, the double levers for gear selection and four-wheel drive selection. There's even a actual handbrake, the flat dash, all the usual little things. This being the Willys 41, I have the heritage tan cloth seats, and I have a cool fabric panel on my dashboard. So my specific tester, well, it's pretty well equipped. I have almost every option package selected. So I get some nice things like a heated steering wheel, heated seats, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, this big infotainment system. But I am missing some features that I expected this price point. Like, I don't have a power seat. There's no wireless phone charger. Some other niceties like head-up display and ventilated seats and navigation, well, they're not here either. I guess that's the price you pay to have such a dedicated, purpose-built off-roader. But as Kyle, I'm sure, is pointing out over and over again, yeah, the 4Runner is the more comfortable, higher quality, nicer interior to maybe spend time in, but it's not nearly as fun. Why? Well, I can take my roof off. That's awesome. I can take my doors off. That's awesome. Also, with the ground clearance and these tires, I can just go bombing over things that specific 4Runner can't, especially with that weird guard thing on the front that really limits its ground clearance. And the looks, this just looks cooler. You just feel like it's more of a fun vehicle behind the wheel. I don't mean by how well it accelerates or handles anything. It's just, you get behind it and it's just that Jeep joy that so many people around the world are obsessed with.
Both of these vehicles have a wide range of trims and options and all that because that's what makes them so popular. You can tailor them to your needs. Now, the Limited, somewhat confusingly, actually only lands in the middle of the 4Runner lineup these days, and this one does not have the hybrid powertrain option in Canada. If you're getting a Limited, it's only this engine. You can get it in the US, but it's a $5,000 charge on top of the regular Limited. That is because it is also packaging four-wheel drive with it, because that is required for the hybrid powertrain. So the difference is actually only $3,000. All in, you're looking at about $61,000, including destination, for a 4Runner Limited equipped like this one with the power running boards, or $71,000 in Canada, also with destination.
So there is a bit of a price for entry into the Willys 41. In the US, it costs almost $62,000 after destination charges, and in Canada, you're looking at about $72,500. Now, as tested with all the options, well, pricing goes up quite a bit. In the US, we're now looking at over $70,000 as tested, and in Canada, it's over $81,000, and that's a good bit more than the 4Runner Limited we have on hand. But as I've said plenty of times in this video, this is the cooler vehicle. It's the more memorable one. It's the one that you think about when you're not in it, and the one you can't wait to get into and go on an adventure. For the customer or the person who really likes that sort of lifestyle, the price is more than worth it. Okay, if I'm completely honest and I'm buying a practical daily driver that's also an off-roader, this probably isn't my vehicle, but that's because it isn't my lifestyle and I don't live anywhere that I can really use it. But if I was someone that was into that sort of thing, the Wrangler would be the obvious choice, and this Willys 41 is just extra cool.
All right, so we've driven both of these, and I think it's pretty clear who the winner is.
The Wrangler. The Wrangler is the easy winner.
Okay, but Mike, mine has better fuel economy and a better back seat and more features, and it drives nicer.
Yeah, but does your roof come off, Kyle?
No.
Do your doors come off?
No.
Do you have this cool hood graphic?
Also no.
Are your wheels replicas from World War II?
Probably not, no.
Then yeah, Wrangler's the easy winner.
All right, obviously we can't decide, but which one do you think is better?